When Keanu Reeves steps onto the set of The Veritas Exchange, the audience braces for another deep, insightful conversation. But Elliot Graves isn't here for insights. He's here for confrontation. Known for his sharp, unrelenting questioning, Graves sees Keanu's silver cross necklace as an opportunity, a symbol to dissect, a belief to challenge. Yet as Keanu settles into his seat, something shifts. The power dynamic, once so clearly in Graves's favor, wavers. Graves leans in, poised to strike. But what he doesn't know is that by the end of this interview, it won't be Keanu struggling for words. It will be him, and the world will be watching. The studio buzzes with energy. Bright lights illuminate the sleek, modern stage, adorned with shimmering LED panels that flicker in cool blues and deep golds, reflecting the sophisticated identity of the show. The audience murmurs in anticipation, eyes locked on the stage. This is what they came for. The Veritas Exchange is no ordinary talk show. It's a battleground. And Elliot Graves, its host, is a man who has built his career on dismantling his guests. Seated at the center of the stage, he adjusts his tie, his expression cool, composed. A predator assessing his prey. Graves is tall, with neatly styled silver hair and piercing eyes that have a way of making his guests feel exposed. He isn't interested in small talk. His specialty? Provocation. He pushes his guests into uncomfortable territory, forcing them to reveal truths they might rather leave hidden. As the show's theme music swells, applause erupts throughout the studio. The camera zooms in on Graves as he spreads his arms in a practiced, theatrical gesture. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Veritas Exchange, the show where we challenge ideas, deconstruct narratives, and put great minds to the test. The audience cheers, their excitement electric. Every week, The Veritas Exchange features politicians, intellectuals, and celebrities, grilling them in discussions that often dominate headlines the next morning. But tonight's guest is different. Tonight's guest isn't a controversial politician or a scandal-ridden pop star. He's an icon, a legend in Hollywood, a man whose humility and kindness have made him one of the most beloved actors in the world. Yet, despite his fame, he remains an enigma. He rarely shares more than necessary, but tonight, Graves intends to go beyond the surface. The host lets the suspense linger for a moment before finally speaking. Our guest tonight is a man who needs no introduction, a pause, a Hollywood legend, a global phenomenon, a man who has captured our hearts through the screen, but who remains, in many ways, a mystery. The audience waits, silent, anticipation thick in the air. Graves leans forward, his voice dropping just slightly. Tonight, we get to know the man beyond the roles. Ladies and gentlemen, Keanu Reeves. The audience erupts. Some even rise to their feet, their admiration palpable. A camera shifts to the side of the stage. The dark curtain slowly parts. And there he is. Keanu Reeves emerges with his signature composed stride, an air of quiet presence surrounding him. He is dressed in a sleek black suit without a tie. His shoulder-length hair frames his face, and against the darkness of his attire, a silver cross necklace gleams under the studio lights. A subtle but unmistakable statement. He acknowledges the audience with a small, reserved smile before taking his seat opposite Graves. He crosses his legs, relaxed, as if unfazed by the weight of expectation pressing into the room. This is not a man easily rattled. Graves studies him, sizing him up. Then he leans in slightly, his gaze sharp. Keanu Reeves. A pause. Welcome? Keanu nods, his voice steady, calm. Thank you for having me. Graves watches him for a moment, his expression unreadable, like a chess player contemplating his first move. Then he speaks. You have a reputation, Keanu, one of the nicest guys in Hollywood, a real enigma, always kind, always discreet, never caught up in scandal. A small smirk plays on Graves' lips. But honestly, Keanu, I think there's more to you than people realize. Keanu gives a small, knowing smile. He tilts his head slightly. I think we all have more layers than we show the world. Graves nods, narrowing his eyes slightly. No doubt. A brief pause follows, calculated, deliberate. Then Graves' gaze flicks to the silver cross resting against Keanu's chest. And the trap is set. Graves leans forward, his gaze locked onto the silver cross hanging against Keanu's chest. Now, let's talk about that necklace. His tone is casual, but the audience feels it. A shift, a calculated move. Keanu doesn't flinch, doesn't react, just listens, waiting. Graves gestures subtly toward the pendant. You've never been particularly outspoken about faith or religion, and yet here you are, wearing a very visible Christian symbol. A pause. The audience leans in. Graves lets the moment breathe, his words lingering. Then his smile sharpens. Is it just fashion, Keanu? Or are you making a statement? The trap is set. The air in the studio shifts. Keanu remains still, his fingers brushing the cross absent-mindedly, an unconscious habit. A moment passes. Then, softly, he speaks. It has personal meaning to me. Graves leans back, letting out a small chuckle, shaking his head as if amused. Mocking. Personal, he echoes. He waves a hand. Come on, Keanu. You're a public figure. Everything you wear, everything you display, it all sends a message. Keanu's expression remains calm, unshaken, but Graves isn't done. Let's be real, he continues, voice dripping with condescension. It's 2025. The world has changed. People have changed. And yet, here you are? He gestures toward the necklace, wearing an archaic symbol. The provocation is blatant. The audience stiffens, sensing the sharpness in his words. Keanu's gaze remains steady. His voice, when he speaks, is measured. Archaic? Graves smirks, deliberately twisting the knife. Yes, archaic, religion, faith, belief in unseen forces. A dismissive wave of his hand. I'm not a religious man, Keanu. I believe in reason, in progress. And frankly, I find it surprising that someone like you, modern, intelligent, would still cling to something so outdated, he chuckles, shaking his head, as if Keanu is a child who hasn't outgrown fairy tales. Some in the audience laugh nervously, others shift, uncomfortable. But Keanu? Keanu doesn't move, doesn't flinch, doesn't shrink under the weight of Graves' words. Instead, he just looks at the host with that quiet, unshaken intensity. Then, at last, he speaks. Interesting, Elliot. His voice is steady, controlled, carrying an undertone of quiet strength. You talk as if faith and intelligence are mutually exclusive. Graves snorts, shaking his head. Oh, come on, Keanu. Let's be honest. How many wars have been fought in the name of that cross you're wearing? How many people have been persecuted, killed, condemned because of that symbol? Keanu runs his thumb over the pendant. His gaze remains steady, unmoved. Then he speaks. Do you want to debate history, Elliot? Or do you want to debate my necklace? A ripple moves through the crowd. A hushed ooh spreads through the audience. Graves' eyes narrow slightly. He isn't used to being called out. A second too long passes before he forces a chuckle, but his fingers tense against the armrest of his chair. He's been hit, and he knows it. Still, he pushes forward. Fair enough, he concedes. His tone sharpens. Let me make it simpler. Are you wearing that cross as a statement, as a declaration to the world? It's a trap. If Keanu says yes, Graves can accuse him of pushing an agenda. If he says no, he will seem hypocritical for wearing a symbol without standing by it. But Keanu? Keanu doesn't fall for it. Instead, he tilts his head slightly, studying the host. Then he speaks. Are you wearing that expensive watch on your wrist as a statement, Elliot? A pause. A second, too long. The audience laughs. Graves' jaw tightens. He knows what just happened. Keanu flipped the conversation effortlessly. The host isn't used to this. He recovers, leaning forward slightly, lowering his voice just enough to sound dangerous. "All right, Keanu, let's be blunt." His eyes lock onto Keanu's. "In a world of science, evolution, and technology, do you really believe that symbol on your chest still has a place?" A direct challenge. The audience holds their breath. Keanu's lips part, ready to respond. Then, the show's theme music plays. A commercial break. Graves grins triumphant. He turns to the camera. "We'll be right back, folks. But trust me, this conversation is far from over." The screen fades to black. The final round. When the show returns, Graves is smug. He believes he has Keanu cornered, but he doesn't realize he's already lost. Graves turns to Keanu, eyes gleaming. "Now, where were we?" Keanu leans forward slightly. His expression is unreadable, but there's something different in his eyes, something unshakable. Then he speaks. "Elliot, may I ask you a question?" Graves blinks. He wasn't expecting this. Still, he grins. "By all means." Keanu studies him. Then calmly he asks, "What do you believe in?" The studio falls silent. Graves squints, detecting a trap. He exhales sharply. "Oh, come on, Keanu. I believe in logic, in progress." In facts, Keanu nods slowly. "So, to you, believing means accepting only what can be measured in a lab?" Graves smirks. "If something can't be proven, it's just an idea." Keanu's eyes steady. "And love?" A flicker of hesitation. Graves blinks. The audience shifts. Keanu's voice remains calm. "Can you measure love, Elliot?" A hush spreads. Graves scoffs, but there's nervousness beneath it now. "I'm not sure I follow." Keanu leans back. "Does love exist?" Graves exhales sharply. "Of course it does." Keanu tilts his head. "But have you ever scientifically proven it?" A silence unlike any before. Graves has no answer. Keanu's voice remains soft. "Not everything we believe in is seen. Some things are felt." The audience is spellbound. For the first time, Graves is speechless. And the world is watching. Keanu Reeves didn't just win the debate, he changed the conversation. If you enjoyed this story, subscribe for more, because tomorrow we have another special story just for you.